Hello to our digital family and our friends. Your favorite trio sibling is back in the house. It is a Tribe Called Dhillon podcast. I'm Angie Dhillon.
And I'm Rose Dhillon.
And I'm Alvin Dhillon.
And before we get into today's content, let's talk about our win of the week. I'm going to share mine because it's fresh in my mind. I went for an amazing walk this morning. I'm not a big walker. I like to go to the gym and, blow off some steam. But the warm weather that we have in Vancouver right now, I know it's going to start to taper down and the rain is going to come. So there's nothing more beautiful than walking on a crisp fall day, even though it's not fall yet. We got about, 2 weeks to go, Al?
We still got a few weeks left.
Okay, but I woke up at 8:30, which is early for me on a Saturday. I'm usually up around 9:30, and I got up, put on my runners, and put on my headphones, put on some good music, and I went for a good 30-minute walk before I started getting ready for taping today's episode. So big ups to me.
Woo, good job.
Woo-hoo. Thank you, Al. What's your win?
It's going to be, you're going to go back to the good old construction.
Oh, boy.
Because I've made some good headway on that.
Okay.
I've completed the painting in almost all the rooms, all by myself. So the one-man show, moving the furniture, covering the furniture, painting it, and then taking it back off, getting it ready, moving the furniture back in place before one of the roommates gets home and complains. So yeah, it was a win.
Good for you, Al. Al, you're a man of many talents.
You really are.
Sometimes I wish God didn't bless me with all these skills.
I want to start
then I wouldn't have to
listing
do
them.
all this.
Do you know how talented you are?
Nope.
You are a IT extraordinaire. Mm-hmm. You're an MC extraordinaire.
Mm-hmm.
You're a great younger brother. On one of the episodes, I went back and looked. I called you a big brother.
Sometimes I feel like I am.
I know. I went back and looked at it, listening to myself, and I'm like, and see, I don't want it to say something negative to myself. I'm like, you're such a moron. He's not your older brother, but you're
in
a
that
big
moment,
brother.
I was.
You did. You took on the role of like as if a big brother. There's another episode that I went and looked back at. Like I critiqued myself. I said something in one of the episode of the importance of brotherhood. I said they're like brothers or like male figure. Like, what do you mean like male? And they are male. Like
last time I checked, I was.
Yeah, I have to work on the likes, but no, you're very talented. You're very caring. You're loyal. You're hard.
You're a comedian.
Working, you're smart. You're funny. You're good looking. You're tall. You're
Go
a
on,
great
we'll just
dresser.
continue the episode like this.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
No, you have so many wins in your bucket
Yeah,
list.
but you know what they say? It's also the gift and the curse. Because when you have all these gifts and skills, guess what? Everybody now wants something from you and say, hey, can you help me with this? Can you do that? Can you do that? I'm like, you know what? I'm actually blind and deaf now, okay? I'm not helping anybody with anything, man. Go Google it. Go figure your shit out. Don't call me, okay?
That's the nature of the beast.
And then they wonder why I never really answer people's calls and I get back to you when I can. Because if I did that, my job would be answering my phone.
You're the jack of all trades, right? And also you have great hair too. So that's another thing.
Thank you. I'm trying to hang on to it. Lately it's been thinning a lot, but you know what? It's all usually self-inflicted.
Yeah, I've noticed this generation of men and guys, their roof is kind of going.
It's all from stress. When you overthink stuff and you go back in your mind, you just keep replaying dumb things, anxiety, worrying about the future, worrying about this, and you feel it. Like a few days later, you'll just feel this. Like it's like a light on your lightness of your head. You can just feel whatever is in your body is like detoxing through your hair. And at the same time, your hair follicles are like just weakening. They come out. Like every time I put my hand through my hair, I have like 5-10 pieces of hair that come out.
Quite a bit of it is genetics, right? Genetics. If someone in the family's got thin hair, then you're going to get thin hair. But no, I think you're doing a great job of holding on to your roof.
Add to that, Ange, I think that ship might sail because Turkey is advertising that they do hair restoration, and apparently everyone's going to Turkey to get their hair restored. All these men that come up on my Instagram feed are going to Turkey.
Because for like $5,000 US, you get like the top of the line procedure. That same thing here in North America will probably be like $25,000.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I know that's a big deal because our friend Shiv is getting lots of appointments because, he is a medical director of micromedical artistry. Yep. He's getting lots of appointments for PRP because for the guys or for the people that go to Turkey to go and get the hair is it called a hair transplant?
Yeah.
Or the hair restoration. The secret to keeping the hair still full is that twice a year they have to do PRP treatment. So he's getting a lot of guys now that are coming to him to make sure that the scalp and everything's stimulated. So he was telling me that it actually works, the hair transplant from Turkey. Turkey. By no means are we promoting going to Turkey. We don't even know the company, but it does work. And that he is doing, so he's done a couple PRP treatments on some people.
I'm going to do it.
Wow.
I'm gonna do
I
it.
can't imagine what it's like to be a man and lose your hair. It's probably some part of your identity. So I can understand why people, don't want to make peace with that and go get it. If we have the technology now to do it, and it makes you happy, go for it.
It's just like what Botox is to women.
Yeah.
For guys, I know for myself, like if I had to lose, because I've shaved my head once before, if I have to lose my hair, I'll automatically look 15 years older. And any person that you've seen, like even if they're young, but as soon as they've lost their hair, they look aged.
Yeah.
And you know how they say, like, if you look good, you feel good. You feel good, you look good. Like that's one thing where I'm like, I can't not lose my hair. And I want to do PRP to the point where my hair's so thick, I can go do a faux hawk again and bring it back.
Oh yeah, you used to have a pretty cool faux hawk. I remember those
Fabio
days.
with the hair, long hair. Yeah.
That's what I want to have.
I was talking to a couple of friends at work about this, and a couple of them said that, listen, I want to go to Turkey, but they've got young children and they're just with their finances, they're strapped. And you could tell that this is something that they really, really want to do, but it's like finding a way or the means of doing it. And my thing is, if it's something that's genuinely gonna, enhance your life or make you happy, figure out a way, whether you got to do a side hustle, you got to cut back on some grocery, but if it's that important to you, find a way to just go and get it done.
Yep.
Right. Because we're all about elevating, motivating, and inspiring
yourself.
So if this is something that you're having this inner dialogue with yourself, and if you're constantly saying it to people, or like, hey, how do I look with hair? Or, what do you think I should do? Because a couple of the guys at work are really, and I just said, go and do it. Figure out a way.
Some people can rock a bald head. Like if you have that head shape that it works well.
It's very few.
Yeah,
right?
very few people have that though. Most people, when they're losing the hair, they just start looking old. So you know what? Start fasting once or twice a week. Cut back on those extra meals and put that money into a savings account.
Yeah.
In 3 years, you got money for some new hair.
Yeah. I have a question for you. How does that Rogaine stuff work? So what
I've
is
tried.
that?
It didn't work for me.
Is that for people that are have hair, or is that if
it's supposed to be as your hair's thinning and it's
maintenance?
It's basically supposed to help thicken it up. I guess it worked for some people. I tried it myself, but it didn't do anything for me. There's 3 steps of it. The last step that's supposed to make your hair feel thicker. All it did was make my hair feel thicker, but it felt like there was something in my hair. It was worse than the feeling of gel in your hair. It was very strange feeling. So it didn't work out for me.
It worked for me. I use it to grow my eyebrow hair back.
It looks like you also used to grow your mustache back.
Very funny.
Look how you line that up right there.
Very funny. Okay, let's get into your win, Rose. You got a really cool win that you want to talk about. So this is the Rose segment. This is Rose's segment.
Yeah, this is going to be this episode we're going to dedicate to the Summit of Greatness. That's where I was last weekend. I went to Columbus, Ohio, and I spent the weekend with Lewis Howes and his team. They hosted a summit, and we had amazing guest speakers that just blew your mind. It was 1,500 people, like-minded folks coming together to elevate, motivate, and inspire themselves to live a better life. And it was just a wonderful weekend. I learned so much. There's so many takeaways from that week, and that's why we're dedicating this episode to it. So I highly would recommend not just Lewis Howes, if there's somebody else you follow. I know Joe Dispenza does these summits. So does Tom Billiard. There's a bunch of folks out there that do these annual events. It's just a really great chance to meet with people that are on the same page as you are.
Really good. I've got some questions for you, Rose, that I want to talk to you about. I'm really intrigued, but I actually am reading Lewis Howes' book right now, The Greatness Mindset. And this was a donation or a amazing gift given to us by Plastic Action. Am I saying it right? Is it Jax Navarro?
Yep, that's
Thank you, Jax, because I know that you actually sent out a whole bunch of books to some of our loyal tribe members. So thank you for that. There was a piece here that actually stuck with me. So I guess you can call this another win. I read it and it really inspired me. So I actually want to read it out to our listeners and our viewers. So you kind of understand where Rose went and what Lewis Howes is about. It's not a biography of Lewis Howes, but he's just talking about how to get to greatness and achieving your purpose in life, right? Okay. So I saved it here. I'm not on this page. I'm on a different page, but I went back because what he said here, what he wrote stuck with me. So this is what he wrote. Okay. We need to build more resilient people and help them get this idea that sometimes nobody's going to come and save you but you. It starts with you. You have to be the one that gets up and starts to drive forward. There's a level of resiliency that comes with choosing to drive forward. In other words, greatness won't happen by accident. no one ever accidentally slipped and fell into it.
Love it. And that's
Right?
what he represents.
True that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So
Great. Thank you for sharing
yeah,
that.
no, I wanted to share that because that quote really resonated with me when I was reading it. I went back and read it a couple times, and it's anything with life that we're doing, right? It's like you went to the summit, you move forward. I know you asked Al and I to come, and I'm not going to lie. Al and I think we're very similar in many ways. I'm not very good at these like small talk networking events. Like, give me the microphone and I can, like, Alvin, host an event. But the minute you put me with people and you got to talk, and it's always like, so how you doing? What do you do for work? What line of work are you in? Oh yeah. Okay. Like, it's that kind of stuff. I feel like people are trying to measure me up to see where I am in life. And I just always feel that sometimes these networking events, even though they've got a bigger purpose, it's just everyone wants to size one another up to see where they are in life. And I think it's turned me off in the past.
And I totally understand where you're coming from, because that is where networking events are, but this is totally different. And I'm actually going to see if I can reach out to Lou's house and get tickets for you guys. And I want to include Shiv, because I think it really, you'll see it's very different. It's not, everyone's there to say, hey, I'm here to like learn, grow, and heal. Like, because he's all about the healing journey, not just about like, getting yourself successful. It's also like healing your inner child, healing whatever's happening from inside you that's holding you back from reaching your potential, uncovering the gifts that, that God, the universe has given you.
Yeah.
It's
So
like collective positivity, right? Everyone bringing your, we're just trying to uplift everybody. I think that's like generally after I started reading the book as well too, I started feeling, I was like, okay, I see what his thing is. Like, doesn't matter wherever your path is going to take you. Let's just try to improve yourself. If you improve yourself, things start working itself out. But whatever you want, you got to put in the work and the effort. So you want to reach those heights, you want greatness, you got to put in the effort.
Right.
So I hear that.
It's basically breaking the barriers of those limiting beliefs, right? Like those beliefs that we have. It's like, you want to be limitless and you want to just, go for it. But sometimes we don't have the way or the means, or we don't understand how to navigate to get there. So it's about moving forward.
And to add to that, that was literally the weekend. It was every person I came up when I took from it. It was, you have to believe in yourself. Nobody else is going to believe in you. You got to believe in your vision, your dreams, and you cannot let anyone take that away from you. And that was the underlining theme of the entire weekend, was believing in yourself.
Yeah. And I think to say what you're saying, like how we are mindset, it's actually our own problem is the mindset of how if we were to go to this event, we feel like we're being sized up or whatnot. And I feel like part of that contribution is where we grew up. We grew up here in Vancouver, and generally speaking, even to this day, people are very cliquey here. It's like, if I go out to meet people, if I don't work with you, or I know a friend of a friend that knows you, you're going to be kind of standoffish. Like, and this is our nature. It's almost like a security thing. Like, hey, this is our set of group here. We don't want no new friends into our group, because this is how it keeps us close. This is working for us. And there's been the nature of, I think, Vancouver, and people feel that generally too. They say when they come to Vancouver, it's hard to make friends unless you're like you go to a bar or a club. It's hard to meet people that way unless you've been working with someone or you met them outside of a different situation. So I think it's just our upbringing too that kind of makes us standoffish. Like, hey, I don't trust anybody else coming into my circle.
And to add to that, that's like when I was in Seattle, we call it the Seattle freeze. It's real. It's the same idea. You cannot connect with people. Yeah. All my friends in Seattle are people who moved to Seattle from another state, but the locals there, they don't really, they click you and they don't really kind of let you in.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the other message that we want to, as we tie into this is, and as I was reading, pages and sections of the greatness mindset, is if you have something that you want to do, and just like how we're doing the podcast, let me tell you something. No one's going to understand your purpose, your journey, why you're doing it, the reason you're doing it. Just know your why yourself, because people will come and ask you questions. We've had people ask us questions, and, I think I don't know if I'm not going to say being judgmental. I don't even know if it's curiosity. I think it's out of sheer boredom, or just because they're nosy and they just really want to understand, like, why just start a podcast? And we owe nobody an explanation. So just remember, as you move forward in your journey, keep it to yourself. That's what I say to some people. Keep some things to yourself, follow the path, keep grinding away, and you're going to get there. Just keep moving forward. And if you can try and keep it as quiet as you can on the DL until you really are kind of making some headway, then do it. So for us, I think for me, that's what I noticed, is that no one understands your passion. No one will get your vibe, but I always say that your vibe attracts your tribe. So just keep it moving forward, and just do you, and don't feel that you need to answer to anyone.
Well said, Ange.
Right?
I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into this. So I want to talk to you about it's called the Summit of Greatness. Okay, and so is this an annual event?
Yep.
What
Annual
happens?
events.
How do you get tickets? How can our listeners and our viewers, if they want to go next year, how can they go?
Yeah. So if you go onto his website, it's Lewis Howe's website, and I think if you type in Summit of Greatness, the tickets, I don't know if they're released for next year. I was able to buy my tickets for next year because I was at the event and they announced it. And the great thing with next year's event is it's in LA. So which makes it so much easier for us to go down.
Where was this year's event?
Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
So it was a 5-hour flight for me, 3-hour time zone. You know, when we have the day start at 8:30 in the morning and it was like 5:30 for me. So I was like, oh, but you get the energy from everyone because everyone's collectively excited to be there. So you feed off that energy from everyone else. And it just starts. It starts on a Thursday for some people want to come early, some courses there. Thursday night, it's a meet and greet. And then Friday is when it goes into he has this really amazing venue that's got such great architecture. He picks, he's very detailed with his stuff and how he has it laid out. And then it starts. And I will answer the kind of the questions you have on the key players.
Before we get into it, the foodie in me wants to know, was there food at the event? Do they give you breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
No, you're responsible for your own food. They're really, he doesn't make it. And he doesn't make any money off this. And he had said that the year before and this year that he doesn't make any money. All the money that the tickets that we were doing goes to getting these people to come, like their hotel, their expenses, the venue expense. He also donated $50,000 to a charity. So he showed the check. So they don't actually make any money from this event. He does this event so that people can come together and connect and meet. And that's really his goal. He's like, don't worry about me being on the stage. Really, after this, I give you guys a 2-hour lunch break so that you can go meet someone else who's in the similar mindset and connect and hopefully exchange numbers.
He's passionate about it.
He's very passionate.
So when you're saying that pays for these people, or is it like paid for the public speakers?
Yeah, so they don't get paid. The public speakers don't get paid either. They come on their own. But I'm assuming he pays for their flight and hotel, right? Yeah. So that's the stuff. But they all come too. Like some of these people, you can go to their events. Like Max Major is a mentalist. If you were to go and pay to see him just, on your own, that's at least $100, $200 event that you would go pay for to see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. But it's probably obviously stimulating the economy in the city of Columbus, Ohio, because so many people are coming there.
Yep.
No deals on any vendor restaurants or anything
he did.
Like that?
He actually gave us a booklet. If you go to these certain restaurants, you'd get 20% off.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Okay. So he had some deals for where you go to have dinner. Yeah.
Okay. Good job. Good job.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay. So let's get into some stuff here. I want to know what made you decide to go to this? Because you went last year. Okay. So what hooked you into going back the second year?
Well, before I explain why I went second year, why I went the first year was I discovered Lewis Howe's during the pandemic when I was kind of in a low place in my life, and hearing this grown man on YouTube saying, you got to heal the inner child in you. And I was like, what? Like that was the first time I'd heard that. And he's like, and he explained, this is a man who's vulnerable on TV telling you about all his stuff he's gone through and how he's overcome. I was like, oh, wow. And then I got hooked into him. And so when I heard about this event, I went last year, and I actually went as a volunteer because I knew that I wouldn't be able to connect kind of like you guys. Mm-hmm. And that experience of volunteer wasn't the greatest. But I just wasn't for me. And I was like, but I made 3 really amazing friends last year. Mm-hmm. So Susanna, Jax, and Chona were my 3 people that I connected with, and we spent the weekend together. So we made that promise at the end of the weekend that we would come back again the following year. Mm-hmm. And so Susanna had, last year was buy one ticket, get one free. So she had an extra ticket from me. Okay. And so that's where I went back this year. And we vowed again this year that we're going to go back next year. And this year, Jax was so on top of it. The moment they announced the tickets, he went and bought us all front row tickets, and we all just Venmoed him the money back. But we get front row next year.
That's amazing. But I feel like you got to talk a little bit about what happened last year without going into too much detail, because I know you called me from there, and there was a little bit of mean girlness stuff that was happening, right?
Yes.
And I wasn't impressed with that because I've led events and we've held events, and when people are giving up their time and they're volunteering for a great cause, none of that kind of stuff, that immaturity, that level of immaturity should exist. It should be strictly professional. And you encountered some mean girl.
I did.
Girlness, so, right? What happened?
One of the girls that was, I guess she was responsible for putting part of this volunteer together. Organizers. Yeah. And, her boyfriend was staying at the same hotel as I was. And so I met him at the hotel, and we just hit it off, and I was like, oh, we'll go to the event together. And so I guess poor guy. He didn't have any friends there. And I'm just someone who likes to make sure no one is alone. So when Jax and Chona and I were all together, I saw him sitting alone. I was like, hey, come join our group. Like, we don't want you to be alone. So we all kind of just formed a group together. But what happened was, I think some insecurities from her part was, oh, why are you hanging out with these women? Why are you hanging out with Rose? I think there was some level of maybe distrust between the relationship. And so she wasn't happy with him spending time with us. And she took it out on me. So unfortunately, I got a text in the morning saying, you're no longer a volunteer. I was like, oh, what just happened here? And I didn't know what happened. And so they just sent me a text. And then I called you saying, I'm feeling isolated. I'm feeling like I
want to come home.
Come home. I was getting really stressed out because I don't do well with mean girl stuff. And she could have just asked me and I would have said, there's nothing going on here. I'm just going through a separation right now. I'm not really interested in meeting anyone. And so that was a really kind of, it was sad, that experience, but this is where I called you and you walked me out of it. You're not running. You're not leaving the event. You didn't do anything wrong. You go back in there with your head up and you enjoy yourself. And that's where Jax, Chona, and Susanna were like, you come sit with us. You're a part of our group.
See, and you made some friends.
And I made some really great friends.
Persevered. See, like he says, the world needs to make some resilient people and you persevered.
Yeah. And I'm not going to lie. I didn't want to persevere because it feels really sucky when you get isolated by all these people. You're working with them every day and all of a sudden they push you aside and you don't even know what you've done wrong. You're like, what happened here? It feels like a gang up. And so, yeah, I could feel because they called everyone up on stage for photos and they eliminated me out of the photos.
That's terrible. Yeah. Did you ever reach out to Lewis House?
No.
And you should.
I should have. I know. I really should. But she's no longer a part of the organization anymore.
See, but so, I mean, maybe she did it to some other women as well, right?
Yeah.
But that's
my biggest thing is, and this is going to be to men and women, your professional should be your professional. Do not bring your boyfriends and girlfriends to events that it's going to take you away from. Like this was to me, she's a professional. She shouldn't have handled it that way. It could have been. I wouldn't have handled it
Especially
that way.
Somewhere at the summit of greatness.
Yeah,
it wasn't like the summit of like evilness or something.
Yeah,
like all combined your bad stuff together.
It wasn't the summit of meanness, right?
Yeah, and if your boyfriend is flirting with another woman, that's a him problem.
No, that's a you problem.
Yeah, that's a YouTube problem. That is not a me problem. Yeah, don't get me involved in that.
And it's unfortunate because anytime you have volunteers that are giving up their time, they're a representation of Lewis House.
Exactly.
So unfortunately, even for me, when I heard the story, I knew right away he's probably got so many volunteers and he's just relying on these people to represent his brand.
Yep.
But I feel like you should probably bring this to his attention and just say, you got to be really careful when you're selecting your volunteers because they really represent your brand. And I'm not going to lie, that's probably why when you asked me this year, I was turned off because my whole life I've dealt with mean girls and mean people and bullying. And I'm like, I'm not, if my sister got bullied last year, I'm like, heck no, I will stay home. I don't need nobody to bully me. I've been dealing with that my entire life.
Let me tell you, I went this way this time, remember, and I was in preferred seating and I was in row 4. So I was like, that's right. I'm not volunteering.
You were like VIP.
The funny thing is I volunteered last year just because I knew I struggled to make friends. That's why, and I just thought if I go in as a seat, I'll sit in my seat and I won't talk to anybody. If I'm volunteering, I'm forced to interact with people. And that was my ammo as to going last year that way. And I did make some nice friends. I connected with people. But this year, I would never volunteer at any of these things again, probably. I would just pay the money and go as a seat and just force myself to connect with someone.
Great. Okay, now let's go on to, let's get into, I'm curious to know, so did they give you guys, like, you know how they have when you go to, anytime you sign up for a conference or a seminar, they give you an itinerary, what the day's going to entail, like, was it 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.? How long were the breaks? What time did you have to check in? Was there registration? Tell me about all that stuff.
Registration happened on Thursday, and because my flight landed in pretty late Thursday, I had missed that. So I went on Friday morning they give you like a goodie bag and they'll give you some snacks in there. They'll give you a pamphlet of what's to come. There's books of the guest speakers are being sold there. So you can buy their books and get them to autograph your books. So there's a whole 9 to 5 and then they give you a 2.5 hour lunch break. And it sounds like a long day, but the speakers that come on stage, I mean, these guys are high energy people that come up and they share their stories. They share their struggles with you. They tell you their highs and lows. And it really, you can just resonate with all of it. I think it was Vanessa Edwards. She got really emotional when she was up there saying when she wrote her first book, someone had told her this book is terrible. No one's going to read it. And it didn't do well. But it turned her off then to writing. And then something came up and a second time and she did write a book. But she said like, how much it hurts when you put all your heart and soul into something and then no one wants to not only read it, but gives you bad feedback. It really does mess with your psyche, but you have to find that inner strength to keep going. And her story was so beautiful and it was amazing to hear up there.
I think there's something that you just talked about there right now. And we've got the energy vampire episode that dropped, right? And so we've had collectively this discussion as well. And even before we tape, we try and make sure that our energy is good. But I think when you're embarking on something, and like I said, just right now, like try and keep it to yourself or quiet, because I think when you're embarking on something and when too many people know about it, or if they give bad vibes, it's already planted in your mind now. And that whatever endeavor, whatever initiative you're working on, it's not going to go off with a great, it's not going to go off without a hitch, because now there's negativity around it. Yeah. So you've already planted that seed. Now when it goes out to the universe, it's not going to do well.
Yeah.
So I think that the big thing is whether it sucks, whether it doesn't, have a limited people, whether it's a book, like a reading party, but you in your mind send that book out with love and light and lots of positive vibes, because that's how it's going to do well, because it's all transmitting energy. So that's probably why she probably felt that. I know. I
love that.
Yeah. I know I had that like 4 or 5 months into our podcast. I had someone sent me a message too, remember? What's your MO, or what is your thing about the podcast? Without going into too much detail, I wasn't hurt by it, the message, because listen, we know we're not for everybody, and I'm cool with that. But it's just the way the message was delivered to me, because I would have expected this individual to have a nice like face-to-face. Like I think you owe that to people that have been in your life for a while. Yep. But I think a lot of times people don't have to get what you're doing. Only you need to get it. And when you're 5 months in and you're starting something, God, we don't know what we're doing. We're trying to figure it out. Tell me in a year.
We're learning out loud.
Yeah. Tell me in 12 months when you're just like, hey, I don't get it. But, and like I said, you just keep going through. And as long as you're doing it with authenticity and love, and your message is good vibes, like eventually it's going to start resonating with people.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. Tell me what was the coolest part of the summit? What was like the number one highlight for you?
I'd say the number one highlight was seeing Jaspreet Singh. Jaspreet Singh has his own YouTube channel, and he's someone who talks about money.
He's the,
what's the name of his channel?
The Minority Mindset?
Yeah, the Minority Mindset. Thank you. And just when seeing him on stage, he dressed really well in a nice 2-piece suit. And there was a moment on stage when he was talking and he put up a map of Punjab. And I didn't even notice. I went, woo! Like I just was the only one in the crowd that just screamed, because it felt like I can connect. I could see it. And it was so nice to see someone of our community up there talking about money, explaining like, sometimes your parents will teach you money's evil, and that's not usually the case, and how to build your wealth and how to invest in the right places, some of the sacrifices you have to make. It was just really, I guess it hit home for me, because I was able to see myself in him, as a fellow South Asian, and I got to meet him and he was really great. I did ask him to be on our podcast. So I'm going to hold you to that, Jaspreet Singh.
Yeah, you did. And actually, we were, that was like fresh off the plate. When they say that you got to strike while the iron is hot, Rose was like messaging me, you got to send an email right now. I'm like, hold your horses. Like, let me process this. And we did actually reach out to his team, and Jaspreet's team from the Minority Mindset did reach back out to us, and he's not taking any interviews right now, but they did say reach out in Q2, and you best believe the tribe's going to reach
2024,
out.
watch out.
Watch out, Jaspreet. We're going to be, reaching out to you. But no, it seemed like, and it was done in such a timely manner. They responded within 24 hours. And I like that.
And he's very kind. His wife was beautiful. They were there for the signing. People came to meet them. He was really wonderful and just very humble, down to earth. It was really nice meeting him in person. I just said to him, like, just seeing you up there, like, there wasn't a lot of Asians, maybe South Asians, maybe like 10 of us that were there out of these 1,500 people. Yeah. So it felt really, just to
power to people, right?
Seeing it's that up people. There. Yeah.
That's why his podcast is called Minority Mindset, because y'all are minorities there. Yep. Great. That's excellent. Okay. What else do I want to say? Okay. Did you have any major insights or any breakthroughs? Like, did you have any aha moments for yourself personally? Like, oh, okay. Like I got to work on something, or I got this, or.
There was several through the people who spoke. I guess what I could say that really kind of resonated was, so Lewis Howes has a girlfriend. Her name is Martha. I don't have her last name written down. They've been together for a couple of years, and they did an episode actually together on their podcast where they spoke about the relationship and like how it works and how they heal through the past relationships, how you don't bring your baggage in, your childhood trauma, all of that. And so at the very last day, they came on stage and they did that. They essentially basically did like a therapy session out in front of all of us. They were
together.
He was asking her questions about her coming into the relationship. And she explained, like, I was in a very abusive relationship before, to the point where like he almost physically abused her. She was in unhealthy relationships, and just being in her 30s, she got started losing that, am I going to meet someone? And Lewis said the same thing. He was in a lot of relationships with women who maybe they were a little jealous. They were just very combative and arguing, and he's not into that. So the two of them had this really beautiful take on their relationship. And then in the end, Lewis goes, well, there is something that I have never asked you on my podcast. And he got up and he proposed to her.
Oh, wow.
I was like, oh my God. And everyone in the crowd screamed, and we all got up. And actually, I'll make a reel for that because I did record it.
Was this closing, like the last
The closing, she was stunned. You could see her whole body was shaking, and her whole family was there. Her parents were there. His
smart.
grandma.
So he set it up. So she still didn't figure out,
because I think because she was going to be a guest on that. That's probably why she invited her family, thinking I'm going to be a guest on the stage. She's never been a guest on the stage. She was there last year. She was in the crowd.
And were her parents there? Because that would be a giveaway. That would be a bit of a giveaway.
I think because he had her advertised as a guest speaker.
Oh, okay.
So if parents are probably thinking, yeah, my daughter's going to be on the stage, I want to go and watch this. Okay. So I don't, maybe, but
I might have said, but he was smart about it. That's good.
That's and his energy was different this year. Like you could see there was something on his mind. So once he did that proposal, you're like, oh, this is probably what was like holding him, like weighing on him, making sure this goes smoothly, because it was well done. And so me and a friend of mine, we're both single. We both took away from that. There's still hope for us. There's still, because she came out of a very few toxic relationships. And she said she went to counseling, and they both go to counseling together. They do their separate counseling and they do counseling together. And so they both bring in this whole idea of understanding one another and being patient with one another. She actually did a really great story that I'm actually going to share. It was really cool. And she said, we were at this event, and she's like, I come from a very big family and Lewis doesn't. And she goes, I told Lewis, okay, here's the cornhole, like stay here and man the cornhole while I go get my 15, cousins and family members. So she goes, I try running. I go find everybody. I come back, somebody else at the cornhole, and I see Lewis standing in the corner eating a popsicle. And I'm like, she's like, the old me would have been like, dude, what are you doing? But she's like, that's who he is. That he just got tired of waiting, and he went just thought about having an ice cream on a hot day. She's like, but I could have turned that into being something like mad at him, but versus just accepting that that's who he is. And it's okay. We'll find something else to do. So I really like that she kind of gave that, because I think I probably would have done something like, what are you doing? I just finally got everyone together. But that's not his responsibility to hold.
Agree. And you know what? Anytime, I think I can relate to her. When we take our big family for granted, we just think, hey, like everyone should gel and blend in. But I do know that from dating people and, with friends now, and we've got individuals that, when they do come to a family event of ours, we like to invite some of our friends, and they don't have big families. It's very socially awkward for them.
It's very overwhelming.
Yeah. And they don't know their place. So I always have to try and be mindful when they want to bounce out or they want to leave after a couple hours. I understand. Thank you for coming. But now I have no expectations when they come. If they come, great. But if they don't want to mingle in kumbaya, I get it, because we don't know anything else but this.
Exactly. And we take that for granted. And I think a lot of people in our family also don't realize that when you don't come from a big family, it's overwhelming, and it can be daunting to go and have to meet 30, 40 people when they're maybe used to just meeting 3 or 4. I mean, I can say from my ex-husband, he had 3 people in his immediate family for me to connect with. And then when he came to ours, I was like, okay, well, here's 100 people and I didn't even think about like, how would that make him feel? How daunting is that task to come into a big group? We're loud and we're in your face and we're larger than life.
Yeah. And he inherited like 75 cousins.
Exactly. So I don't think I was very, I would say, unconscious and not mindful of that. And moving forward now, as I embark on meeting people, I have to remind myself to be understanding and patient, that they don't always have the same upbringing and same energy that I do or my family does. And it's okay.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, I always pray, I was like, I hope I meet someone that with a family that's not as big as ours, because I don't know how I'll be able to spend my time spread out like this. I was like,
Right.
I would have no time. We already have enough with our own family going. I was like, if I had to take on another big family, I'd be like, oh man, this would be tough.
I agree.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. What else? Anything else that you want to add, Rose? Before we start?
There's a mentalist. I don't know if you ever guys have seen it. I've seen them on TV, and I'm always like, this can't be real. This is like, they're like hypnosis or hypnotherapist.
What is it called?
They're called a mentalist. His name is Max Major.
Okay.
And he was there. My mind was blown away. Okay. So he went on stage and he asked people to think of a number. And then everyone had to come up and tell them the number. And he pulled out this lottery ticket from his pocket. He'd already had those numbers picked 2 hours before the event. And everyone was shocked. Like no one could be able to be prepared for that. That every single one of the numbers that those people said was a number that he'd already prepared for. And then in the back of the paper, the last woman who came up and read the numbers, her name was Amber, and he had written Amber on that paper. Yeah. Yes.
I'm still a little skeptical.
No.
I would have to be because
like,
what if you planted those 8 people to come up and you already knew beforehand? No one really knows.
And one of the guys that he brought up on stage, and he asked him to close his eyes, and then he had Lewis sitting on one seat and he had the gentleman sitting on one seat, and he goes, close your eyes, think about this, and then he goes, and he tapped Lewis on the shoulder, and then when he asked both of them to open their eyes, he goes to the gentleman, where did I tap you? And he goes, you tapped me right here, and he was tapping Lewis. So energy, like he's saying everything is an energy transfer, but he made him close it. How he did it, I don't know, but it was definitely a cool experience.
Cool.
Like how he went into the crowd, he went and lied on glass. He brought broken glass. He put it all over the stage and he put his entire body into the glass, had Lewis stand on top of him. Lewis is 6'4", 200 pounds, stand on top of his body as this guy's body is going into crushing glass.
What?
Yeah.
And he didn't have any.
Did you record any of that?
Yeah, some of it I recorded. My mind was so blown. I don't think I was probably shaking as I was recording.
And so Lewis House's body was on top of it. So on crushed glass.
Yeah.
So like, was he bleeding or anything?
No. That was so because he showed there's 5 people up there and they all had their the glasses up and their gloves on, and he said, touch the glass, show them that this is real glass. Everyone, it was all laid out. And then, so first time he went and walked over the glass, then he went back over and lied down on the glass. Then he had Lewis come and step on top of his body as he was lying on the glass.
Like where, on his stomach he's standing on?
No, so he put his whole body flat down on the glass.
Facing downward or facing?
The glass, when he woke up, came out, the glasses were on his face. Okay. He was wiping them off.
But he didn't have any cuts. So that's almost like an illusionist type of thing.
Yeah, and his that's what it is. The mentalist is that. And the cool thing was he was so honest and raw. He's like, 3 years ago, I got diagnosed with Lyme disease, and I thought I will never be able to go on stage ever again and do this. This was his passion, but that health scare just took his energy down. That he was in a very kind of depressed state. And he couldn't. And he's like, to be back on stage again is just amazing. And hearing him tell us that, he went through this dark spell in his life where for a few years he didn't think he'd be able to perform again. And his energy, he lights up the room when he smiles. And when you're like, like we were all just, I loved.
I'm glad that you had a great time though. It was way better than your first time.
Yeah.
No, there's Inky Johnson was supposed to be an Inky Johnson.
Say that. Wait.
I know. I love the name.
Oh no. Yeah. Al's got a joke already in his mind. What's his name?
Inky Johnson.
Inky, like INKY. And what does he do?
So he was supposed to be in the NFL. He had a scholarship. He came from extreme poverty. His mom worked 2 jobs. He got into college football on a scholarship. And one day during the game, the way he fell, something happened and he became paralyzed, arm down. So he could no longer play football. And that crushed his dreams. That was the only dream that he had. So he turned that situation and became a public speaker where he would go and motivate people that this happens to you, but you can turn this into something great. And so his story was so amazing. And what I learned from him was he's got a wife and kids, and he goes and gets all these gigs to go speak, and he gets paid for them. And he said, it's not always about the money. There was one event he took, and it was on his wife's birthday, and he went and did the gig, and he came back, and she was a little my birthday. He goes, I realized that gigs will always come and events will come, but those times with your family, those precious times, they don't come. So take care of your family first, and then everything else will come after.
Is he still paralyzed on that shoulder? Oh, still? Yeah. Okay. Because sometimes I know that like the nerves can like
I think he said he had a stroke, and then that feeling comes because his arm doesn't move. The left arm doesn't move at all.
Good for him though.
Very good.
Talking about that's amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, he's a resilient person.
Very resilient person. And yeah, his story up there, he captivated the audience. He walked you through the accident. He walked you through some other stuff that happened in his life after, the people who helped him through his dark periods. He really kind of emphasized remembering the people that were there for you when you were in your lowest moments, because those are the people that really count. And, I can understand that and empathize with that because that's something that I have experienced. And it's nice to be reminded that those really are the true small amount of people, 4 or 5 people that are there for you, and to just never forget those people.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we can feel the energy in the room. We can feel Rose's energy. I feel like you brought the entire 1,500 people all here, and I can feel their energy. So that was great. That was the Summit of Greatness that Rose went to the event, led and hosted by Lewis Howes, right?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I think with that, we are going to close this episode. Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah. Next year, I'm going to try to get you guys to come because Lewis did say he's going to try to get Dr. Andrew Huberman, who I'm a big fan of. I am his girlfriend. He just doesn't know that yet. Okay. So I'm hoping next year I'll get to tell him that in person.
Okay, that's amazing. Okay, well, there you go. The tribe might be going to the Summit of Greatness next year.
Yes.
So with that said, we just want to say thank you so much for tuning in and listening to today's episode. Hope you enjoyed the content and you are able to get some nuggets of information in there. We're going to be back next week. Check us out on our social channels. Our family's growing. We want to say thank you so much on across all of our platforms. We're growing. So thank you so much. We're signing off. It is a Tribe Call Dhillon podcast. See you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya.